Hello, 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 and welcome to Friendship Empire. I am the Empress, and today we are talking about the royal family of Monaco, who aren't actually very royal. They are technically serene highnesses, that is, except for Princess Caroline, but she had to marry a royal in order to get her HRH. But anyway, we are going to have some good news and some bad news about the Grimaldis. And as you can see here, we have Prince Albert of Monaco, the reigning prince, and his wife, Princess Charlene, dressed in the national colors of Monaco, red and white, very patriotic. And so, a little bad news for Albert and Charlene, but some good news for Albert's nephew and niece-in-law and his sister Caroline. So let's get to the good news, shall we? Let me move over our picture of Albert and Charlene and pull up, ta-da, a picture of Beatrice Borromeo Casiraghi, who is married to Albert's nephew Pierre, one of the sons of Albert's sister Caroline. And, well, if you can read French, then you can probably tell that she is pregnant. And if you can't read French, you probably can just take a look at the fact that she is wearing this rather large sheath dress, normally naturally quite slender. Beatrice is pretty obviously pregnant, and royal watchers had called this out before the announcement was made because, well, she looked pregnant. And while sometimes speculating on a woman's figure and assuming she's pregnant is a bit of a rude thing to do, it was pretty obvious in Beatrice's case. And this will be the third child for, assuming she's not pregnant with twins, as Charlene gave birth to twins, although I have a feeling that was not a natural conception. Probably the typical IVF twins phenomenon, I imagine, is what had occurred there. But anyway, I actually made a family tree for the Grimaldis because I was not satisfied with any of the ones that I had found online. So here we go. I will make this full screen, but you can't see some of the text under the little crawl at the bottom of the screen, I think. So I'll move it so you can read it. But let's go over the Grimaldi family tree if you need a refresher, or if you've never seen it before. Well, here you go. We start at the top with Prince Rainier III and his wife Grace Kelly, the American actress. They, of course, are both deceased. Rainier was the last prince, and when he died, he was followed by his son Prince Albert, who we saw with Charlene. Now, Grace and Rainier had two other children, Princess Caroline, over here, the eldest, and Princess Stephanie, over here, the youngest. And every one of Rainier and Grace's children has had multiple partners, not all of them marriages, and then they have the children of those relationships. So let's start over here on the left with Princess Caroline, the eldest of Grace and Rainier's children. She has been married 3 times. Her first husband was Philippe Junot, the French playboy, much older, much not appreciated by Caroline's parents, and that marriage ended rather quickly. They divorced, no children. Then she married the Italian heir and playboy, Stefano Casiraghi. This marriage ostensibly happier. Supposedly, Stefano had a bit of a wandering eye, as did his predecessor, Philippe Junot. But anyway, at least they presented as a very happy, beautiful, loving couple to the public through the duration of their marriage, which ended tragically when Stefano died in a speedboating accident, rather young. leaving behind their 3 children. Andrea, the eldest, a son, despite the name Andrea, that of course being Italian, so male. Charlotte, the middle child, and Pierre, the youngest. And it is Pierre Casiraghi's wife, Beatrice Borromeo, herself an illegitimate child. Her father, aristocratic, but not married, so she has the benefit of lineage and money, but not the legitimacy, which sometimes becomes an issue in these families, as we will see with Prince Albert in the next story, our bad news section of today's tales. So Pierre and Beatrice, they have 2 sons, Stefano, named obviously after Pierre's late father, and Francesco, who's named after Beatrice's father. And yeah, so Princess Caroline has let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 grandchildren. The upcoming baby will be her 8th, and heavily weighted, as you can see, towards the males. Andrea Casiraghi and his wife Tatiana Santo Domingo. She is the South American heiress, billionairess, also a fashion designer. A lot of fashion-oriented people in the Grimaldis family tree. Of course, Princess Caroline, noted for her fashion and her style. Her daughter Charlotte has followed in her footsteps. Beatrice Borromeo, her Caroline's daughter-in-law, also very fashionable, very stylish. And Tatiana, who co-owns a fashion company with one of her close friends. And Andrea and Tatiana have 3 children. Sasha, who is a son, that's a boy. India, their daughter, and Max, the youngest and the second son. Charlotte, she has had 2 baby daddies. Her first, Gad Elmaleh, the French comedian. They did not marry, but they have a son together, Raphael. And then Charlotte married Dimitri Rassam, the French filmmaker, director. He is himself a Nepo baby. His mother, a very famous French model and actress. His father was also, if I remember correctly, a filmmaker. And Charlotte and Dimitri have a son together, Balthazar, and they have split up. They were married. I can't remember off the top of my head if the divorce is finalized, but they have definitely split. And then, of course, Pierre and Beatrice. And then Princess Caroline eventually remarried to Prince Ernst August of Hanover, a totally legitimate German prince, an HRH. He is a Royal Highness, and upon marrying Ernst August, Caroline was elevated from a Serene Highness, which is what the royal family, not so royal, of Monaco, that's their style, Serene Highness. But now she is a Royal Highness, and Caroline and Ernst August have 1 daughter together, Princess Alexandra, down here. Ernst August was married before to a Swiss heiress. They had 2 sons together, and then their marriage fell apart. And there was the talk, the rumors, the gossip that Caroline was Ernst August's first wife's best friend, and then they ended up together. Well, anyway. Moving on. So yes, and they've since, Caroline and Ernst August have been separated. No official divorce, but Ernst August has had his troubles. He has a drinking problem. He's had health problems, and I would not be terribly surprised if Princess Caroline ended up with being a widow once again, possibly even before the end of this year. So stay tuned for that possible news. Moving on in the family tree, we have Rennie and Grace's second child, their only son, Prince Albert, who the heir to his father. In Monaco, the throne can be passed through the female line, but they do not have females sitting on the throne, being the sovereign princess. So Princess Caroline, the eldest of the three children of Rainier and Grace, was passed over in favor of her brother. And he, of course, married to Charlene, who we saw earlier, wearing all red and white. They have twins, Princess Gabriella and hereditary Prince Jacques, who, of course, will follow in his father's footsteps as the sovereign prince of Monaco, if all follows as is the usual way of doing things. However, Albert had two other children, at least two that he has acknowledged. There are, of course, rumors Albert was a very, very, very busy boy, and probably continues to be if the articles we are going to read are to be believed. But yes, very busy in his bachelorhood, and a couple products of his busyness are his elder two children, at least the two that he has acknowledged, from premarital relationships. And the eldest of Albert's acknowledged children is Jasmine Grace Grimaldi, his elder daughter, with Tamara Rotolo, an American lady. I believe I've seen her described as a flight attendant, waitress. Sorry. Nicole Cost, his second baby mama, was a flight attendant. I don't believe either of these ladies have to do much working anymore if they don't wish to. But anyway, yes, baby mama number one, Tamara, is the mother of Jasmine Grace. And for the longest time, Albert did not acknowledge any of his out-of-wedlock children. And that became a bit of an issue, but it's all resolved now. Don't worry. They're sitting very pretty, all of the children. Maybe not emotionally, but financially they're fine. And then baby mama number two, Nicole Cost, who has a very long-term relationship of some sort with Prince Albert. It has certainly been rumored that he would have married her if and made her the Princess of Monaco if he could have feasibly done that. But it was decided that that was not a good idea, for whatever reason. But nonetheless, they have a son, Alexandre Grimaldi Coste, and Alex here, that both Jasmine Grace and Alexandre have a relationship with their father, Prince Albert. They have been seen in Monaco. We will see this in the articles we're going to look at in just a minute. Yes, he takes care of them, he acknowledges them, but this is a more recent phenomenon. Through much of their life, they were secret and rumored, but kind of an open secret. It was well known in the gossip press and whatnot. So, and again, he continues, and we will see Albert and Nicole Coste have a relationship that it seems to go beyond merely making nice for the sake of the children, kind of a thing. So, anyway, let's see. Oh, and of course, yes, then Charlene. So Jasmine Grace, Alexandre, Gabriella, and Jacques. And then finally, we come to Princess Stephanie. And it occurs to me, let me make this a little more visible. I will scroll down a little bit so you can see the text here at the bottom, and the scroll does not obscure that. Okay, I hope you can see that. So we have Princess Stephanie, the youngest of Grace and Rainier's children. She was married twice, first to Daniel Ducrouet. They had actually had two children, Louis, their son, and Pauline, their daughter, before they bothered with to get married. They did marry, legitimated the children, and very quickly Daniel was exposed as a cheater, with photographs of him with, as I recall, Miss Nude Belgium. And after that public humiliation, Stephanie decided, well, I guess it's time to end this. And they were only married for about a year, despite the fact that they had been in a relationship longer than that. As you know, the fact that they had two children before they married would tend to indicate. The second marriage that Stephanie had was to Adonz Lopez Perez, who was a acrobat in the circus, a circus belonging to a married man that Stephanie had had an affair with. And then the affair ended, and she married Adans and moved into his caravan, his circus trailer, and was living there with her 3 children. Well, that marriage didn't last very long, and you might notice I said 3 children because at that point she had had her 3rd child, Camille Gottlieb, which was a child she had out of wedlock with a security guard, Jean-Raymond Gottlieb, in between her 2 marriages. And of course, Stephanie was a staple of the tabloid press for a long time, mostly in the 80s. She had a very long and storied dating career, as I suppose many, if not all, of the Grimaldis. And Grimaldi, by Grimaldis, I mean extension, the whole family tree here. All of the adults on this page pretty much have a long and storied dating history. But Stephanie, Caroline actually dated her share of, I think, actors. She had a couple French actors under her belt, but Stephanie made waves in the United States, specifically because she had dated Rob Lowe. She's also dated some well-known European celebrities, but Rob Lowe, I think, was her most famous paramour at the time. So anyway, I think that was come to think of it, I think that was around the time that Stephanie was not only a pop singer. She had, I think, a one-hit wonder. It was Hurricane, I think, in French, and or something like that. But she was also a bathing suit designer for a hot moment, and there you go, another fashion connection. And following in her footsteps, Stephanie's daughter, Pauline, has also gone into fashion, was a fashion student, and has fashion designs out there. You can go look them up and be the judge of what you think her level of talent is. It's not exactly my cup of tea, but good luck to her. And so of Stephanie's children, we have Louis Ducrouet, Pauline, and Camille Gottlieb. And Stephanie is now a grandmother because Louis and his wife, Marie Chevalier, have 2 daughters, Victoire and Constance. And Constance was just born at the end of last year, so this is why I don't have specific photos for each little girl. We just have the one photo of Victoire holding Constance. So these are the Grimaldis, and yes, so they will add to their number by at least 1 by the end of the year, because Beatrice Borromeo Casiraghi will give birth to another child. And place your bets, will it be yet another boy or a girl? Well, I'm going to bet girl, if only to balance it out a little bit. It's almost all boys, so maybe another little girl would be fun, but another little boy would be fun too. So good luck to them. That's the good news of the Grimaldis. And now, moving on to the bad news. The bad news. So, what I first saw was this article, let me scroll back up, in the Wall Street Journal. And let me widen this so that we can see the whole thing. Goodbye, Charlene and Albert. From Wall Street Journal magazine, the prince, his money manager, and the corruption scandal rocking Monaco. And this has been going on for quite some time. This article is dated from May 24, 2025, but this has been going on a lot longer than just recently. Here is an article, and this is the first one that we're going to look at, from the New York Post from January 2024. So that's over a year ago as of this recording at the beginning of June 2025. The title says, "Inside the Dangerous Spending Scandal Rocking Monaco's Palace, Millions on X's, quote, secret missions." Well, you can probably guess who the X's are that the millions are going to. Back to the article. The malice at the palace has reached DEFCON 1, a scandal that's been simmering since 2021, 4 years now. involving the most powerful people in the postage stamp-sized Principality of Monaco, including Prince Albert, his one-time trusted Gang of Four, a shrewd real estate developer, and now Princess Charlene, has taken a turn for the worse. The Grimaldis family's once mighty and respected accountant, Claude Palmero, was unceremoniously ousted last year from his perch at the Pink Palace, high above the Mediterranean, after 22 years of service to Albert. He succeeded his own father, who served as the late Prince Regnier's accountant. So everybody's inheriting their position. It's Nepo babies all around. He's now taking out his revenge in spectacular fashion. It's a story that could have come from one of the Alfred Hitchcock film noir that Prince Albert's mother, the late Princess Grace, starred in. Palmero, 67, gave 5 black notebooks containing detailed notes about decades of palace financial secrets and shenanigans to France's most respected newspaper, Le Monde. The resulting 4-part series with sinister headlines like The Fall of the Man Who Knew Too Much. Ooh, we might have to read that. Shines an embarrassing light on 65-year-old Prince Albert's professional and personal foibles. And here is a picture of Albert and Charlene with Jacques and Gabriella. Okay, and there's Albert and Charlene again. Among them are his demand for a second secret bachelor apartment after his 2011 marriage to former Olympic swimmer Charlene Wittstock. Hey, let's see Albert and Charlene again here. I've moved them over so you can look at them. It's a good reaction to this, isn't it? Uh-oh, he's in trouble. And the allocation of up to $650,000 annually in special funds for secret missions and parallel activities. Those secret missions included paying some police officers retainers for useful information and for recovering compromising photos. Albert's been sloppy. He's been sloppy. He's always been sloppy. There's plenty of photographs of him out there. Maybe not terribly, terribly compromising in the, we need to censor this kind of sense. But certainly there are plenty of pictures of him out partying and hanging around ladies that were not his wife. Of course, that was happening well before he even had a wife, but still, it was a bad look. He's very, very sloppy and messy. And actually, I mean, I'm, kind of making light of his very active social life, but there are some much darker rumors about Albert and his extracurricular activities. That I think I'll save that story for another time. This is mostly finance with a little bit of salaciousness mixed in. That one is purely salacious and rather disturbing. We'll go into that another time. It involves a woman who used to be very, very famous. Not so much anymore, but let's get back to the article. In a separate interview with French newspaper Libération, Palmero added that Albert kept a secret account at a French bank under the initials AG, of course that would be Albert Grimaldi, to secretly pay his former mistresses and their children. Until now, Albert's sometimes estranged wife, Charlene, 46, has been portrayed as an enigmatic but fragile and troubled princess. Oh boy, howdy has she. And of course, here's Albert and Charlene with their children, Gabriella and Jacques, and they all look absolutely thrilled. And you'd think they'd be a little cheerier. Look, circus elephants. I wonder if Stephanie was anywhere nearby. Maybe she's friends with the circus elephants. But, back to the article, Palmero's notebooks also paint her as a spendthrift who, as of December 2019, had gone through more than $16 million in 8 years. Well, that's only $2 million a year. That actually doesn't sound terribly bad. And if you've contracted to make a marriage such as this, I would think that getting some fringe benefits is part of the deal. But if $2 million a year is enough to keep her happy and quiet and in the principality, I would think that would be a pretty good bargain. Continuing the article, these practices are dangerous, Palmero wrote in one of his notebooks. It's crazy. I have no control over the princess's spending. Albert is reportedly worth between $1 and $1 billion. Well, that's an interesting figure. I suppose many people are, except for, well, the ones that are over $1 billion. As the current head of the House of Grimaldis, which has ruled Monaco since 1160, according to the notebooks, Charlene receives an annual allowance of about $1.6 million, but her husband also regularly gave her additional payments, including a $650,000 payout in 2017 to pay off her overdraft. And here is a picture of the pink palace. It doesn't look quite so pink there. It's looked pinker in other photographs. But this one, it looks a little yellow or peach, maybe peach, but lovely nonetheless. Continuing, they are really out to get her. A 35-year resident of Monaco who knows Princess Charlene personally. Oh, yes, of course. I know her personally, and I'm not her, told the Post, referring to what she said were both palace courtiers and some powerful monegasques. She didn't play ball the way she was supposed to, and they've had it with her. No one ever really liked her. She has a cold personality, but now the knives are really out. Palmero also wrote at length in the notebooks about Charlene's questionable spending habits, which he said included hiring illegal migrant nannies without proper visas or passport as part of her 8-person staff, and paying them as little as $100 per day. Well, if that's true, that's inexcusable. She has a ton of money, and she's stiffing the wait staff, the help. That's terrible, especially if they don't have proper visas or passport, because that, of course, could be held over their heads if they wanted to complain or escape or do anything. And Monaco is not a place you want to be on the wrong side of the power people. I mean, that's obviously true anywhere one goes, but Monaco is a very, very strange little place. Very strange. Okay, continuing the article. After the 2014 birth of Albert and Charlene's twins, Gabriella and Jacques, they were placed in the care of illegal immigrant nannies, according to the notebooks. And here we have a picture of Claude Palmero himself, the man the whistleblower, the complainer here. Back to the article. Her Serene Highness, the princess, makes people work for her who are not compliant, Palmero warned Prince Albert. He also cited a moonlighting Filipino woman who ties up dogs in the shower. Well, that seems inappropriate. Another time, Palmero wrote, update on the hiring of nannies. We are completely illegal. Even their tourist visa expired on January 7. They are not only in an illegal situation, but one entered with a false passport. Monaco has always been wall-to-wall scandals, and with so many explosive stories, that just mysteriously suddenly went quiet. The secret payoffs are not really all that unexpected. Alison Coe, a longtime French Riviera-based writer who has a blog that includes a focus on Monaco, told the Post. And here is a picture of Jasmine Grace Grimaldi, the elder of the 2 daughters of Prince Albert, the non-legitimized daughter of Prince Albert. And she's quite the socialite. She makes a lot of appearances at social events. And here she is with her boyfriend, if you can read the caption here. I have to cut, unfortunately, most of their heads off in order to read it. Jasmine lives with her boyfriend, Ian Mellencamp, the nephew of singer John Mellencamp, and I guess what would that be, cousin of the Real Housewife? in a $3 million New York City apartment Prince Albert bought for her. Well, how nice. See, don't cry over the illegitimate part of her paternity, because she's doing quite well for herself. She's got a famous boyfriend, I guess, kind of famous, sort of. He's a model, supposedly. I don't know. I hear more about the Teddy Mellencamp, the Real Housewife lady. But anyway, yes. So nepo babies all around. Who would have imagined back in the early '80s when a little song called "Hurt So Good" came out by who was then referred to as John Cougar, that we would have the Mellencamp dynasty of John and Ian and Teddy and who knows what other Mellencamps will crawl out of the woodwork. Oh, those are Mellencamps I've forgotten about. If you follow celebrity gossip and celebrity children, nepo babies who get into trouble, you may recall that once upon a time, John Mellencamp was married to the model Elaine Irwin, and they had 2 sons together. This was long before John Mellencamp dated Meg Ryan. Remember that? Remember that when that was a thing? They're not together anymore. He's moved on to, I forget who. He's with a new famous lady, isn't he? But anyway, back in the day, John Mellencamp was married to Elaine Irwin, and they had 2 sons named Hud and Speck. You heard me, Hud, which I guess it was an old James Dean movie, I think. Elizabeth Taylor. Rock Hudson? Or no, that's Giant. Well, anyway, I think there was a movie called Hud. I'd have to look this up. And then the other child, Speck, like the meat, the lunch meat? Speck? I don't know. Anyway, they named their children Hud and Speck, and Hud and Speck, as I recall, I think it was both of them, got into a little bit of a fisticuff situation. It was quite a violent episode, as I recall. It may have only been one of the boys. I don't want to, slap them with the same accusation here. I thought they both got into trouble, but I think one of them may be more so than the other. But that's a blast from the past. That's old gossip. I remember the mugshots, but anyway, so the illustrious Mellencamp dynasty, and perhaps one day if Jasmine and Ian here get married, we could have a lovely Mellencamp Grimaldi wedding in Monaco. Wouldn't that be exciting? Something to look forward to, perhaps. And then maybe more babies, yes. But back to the article. Let's continue. With all the money that flies around that little principality, I don't think anybody here is really all that shocked. Except, of course, the bit about the underpaid, undocumented household staff. That's pretty awkward. Well, yeah. What really has everyone bemused, however, is how it all came out. Talk about spilling the tea. It's schadenfreude, Coe added. Everyone loves to see 1% get their comeuppance, and in Monaco, it is usually in the most spectacular way possible. The spurned Palmero lost a power struggle between Albert's advisors and Monaco's most powerful real estate developer, Patrice Pasteur, in a fight over the principality's ultra-lucrative property market last spring after a mysterious online site called Les Dossiers du Rocher, the Rock Files, began exposing what it claims are the corrupt secrets of Albert's inner circle. The accusations include money laundering. Well, that's not shocking. Okay, the site has accused... Oh, and this is the photograph of this young gentleman here is Alexandre Grimaldis Coste, the elder of the 2 sons of Prince Albert here. This is his child with Nicole Coste, his second child in birth order, that is. Okay, the site has accused Palmero, Albert's chief of staff Laurent Anselmi, the prince's attorney and childhood friend Thierry Lacoste, and the president of Monaco's Supreme Court, Didier Linotte, of fraud, cronyism, and corruption, as well as undue influence on Monaco's rich real estate and property market. And here is a lovely photo of all. This is all of Albert's children together. There's Jasmine Grace, there's Alexandre, Gabriella, and Jacques. It's nice that they all know one another and have a relationship. And from what I understand, Jasmine and Alexandra actually do have like a friendship, half siblings, connection. Not entirely sure how much the little twins get to see their older half siblings, but apparently the elder of the two do have a nice cordial relationship, and that's lovely. Okay. Back to the article. All four men have denied any involvement in the alleged corruption and filed official complaints after the Dossier du Rocher website began leaking their information. Many close to that so-called Gang of Four believe it was Pasteur, the scion of the uber-influential Pasteur real estate empire, who was behind the data dump of their hacked emails and bank records in the dossier. Pasteur has denied it and now seems to have gained the confidence of Prince Albert himself. This is all the final proof that the emperor has no clothes, said, now, let's see, are we going to say that's Robert Eringer? Robert Eranger? Robert Eringer? It could be any of these. Who worked for Albert as an intelligence advisor from 2002 to 2007 in Monaco. He added that he warned the prince about Palmero, Lacoste, and the others not looking out for his best interests way back then. And here is Prince Albert, obviously an older photograph of him with Nicole Coste, a very glamorous lady, the mother of his son, Alexandre. And this is again, much older photograph of Jasmine's mother, Tamara Rotolo. This is probably maybe a 20 or so year old photograph. But anyway, that's baby mama number one. Okay, continuing. Albert's to blame for the soup he now finds himself in. Eringer, who has his own blog where he writes about the Grimaldis, told the Post. Monaco is at war all the time. Palmero was deeply entrenched in the factional warfare. What I was doing for Albert was being the honest broker, pointing out these warring factions. I looked at them as cancer cells, and I think I was the first one to blow the whistle on Palmero, but he fired me instead. Albert has a hard time with confrontation. He runs away from it. Yeah, like when a lady has his baby. Anyway, the secret notebooks also give more than a glimpse into the money paid to Albert's legitimate and illegitimate relatives. And here we have a photo of Prince Albert. This is a rare Prince Albert. He has facial hair, and he is there with Laurent Anselmi. Over here, one of his advisors. And can we take a moment to appreciate the red-headed judge or whatever this lady is, whatever her position is. It does not say what this event is. It looks rather official. And but I noticed that she has dyed her hair a bright red and has matching earrings and lipstick to match her whatever award medal she has pinned to her chest here. And well, it does look a little odd, but at least it's in the national colors of Monaco. You notice it goes with the velvet robe here, and matches Albert and Charlene over here. So at least she's patriotic, I suppose. And here we have a photo, again, an older photograph, because you can see how much younger Albert looks, with longtime lawyer Thierry Lacoste, his old childhood friend, or at least acquaintance. I don't know if they're friends any longer. But yeah, so there they are. Continuing. Albert's sisters, Princess Caroline and Princess Stephanie, get yearly allowances of $780,000 and $690,000 respectively, according to what Le Monde published about the notebooks. Princess Charlene's brother, Sean Whitstock, 41, was given about $800,000 to buy a house. Prince Albert has been generous with his 31-year-old daughter, Jasmine Grace Grimaldi. Her mother, Tamara Rotolo, a former waitress, there you go, it was waitress, who had a brief fling with Albert, that's a nice way of putting it, long fought for Albert to acknowledge Jasmine as his own, even ambushing him at public events. Ooh, that's awkward and messy. And here we have a photograph of Didier Linotte, president of the Supreme Court of Monaco and one of Albert's Gang of Four. Okay, so harassing Albert paid off. It paid off. Jasmine, who has been dating Ian Mellencamp, the nephew of John Mellencamp, since at least 2016, lives with him in a $3 million Tribeca apartment Albert bought for her 6 years ago. Jasmine, who had a bit part in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, also has a small role in John Mellencamp's new musical, which is currently being workshopped in New York City, called Small Town, the story of Jack and Diane. Well, I wonder how she got that role. Can you imagine being trying to be a working performer, a working actor or actress in or model in New York City, and you're going on auditions and, oh, I'm sorry, we can't cast you in the John Mellencamp musical because we have John's nephew's girlfriend, who happens to be Prince Albert of Monaco's daughter, is going to be taking that role. Sorry. Sorry that you studied at Juilliard and went to the Yale Graduate School of Drama, but not qualified. We've got John's nephew's girlfriend instead. Okay, anyway, who lives in a $3 million Tribeca apartment. Well, if only all, I was going to say unwanted children. Sorry, Jasmine. If only all illegitimate children got rewarded so graciously. And in addition, she receives an annual allowance of about $344,000, according to the notebooks. Well, you are going to have to pay taxes and upkeep on that apartment in Tribeca. It's not going to be cheap. So does her half-brother Alexandre Grimaldis Coste, 20, whose mother is a Togo-born former flight attendant, Nicole Coste. Alexandre and Nicole are seen frequently at the palace. See, what did I tell you? But the notebooks reveal bad blood between Nicole and Charlene. Well, yes, I suppose if your husband's ex, and put that in, big question marks, ex, maybe, is showing up at the palace, yeah, you might feel a little put off. But then again, I mean, her husband, does she really care? Is it a love match? Would you mind that much? I would think that the contract would be secure between Charlene and Albert, but who knows? Things can change. Maybe he'd like a divorce and to remarry, but it doesn't seem like he would even need to bother to do that. Seems like he's got his cake and can eat it too. And this is a picture of Robert Eranger. Robert Eranger, you be the judge. You can choose the pronunciation. He was Albert's head of intelligence from 2002 to 2007 and has long been critical of the prince. Continuing, Nicole was en route to cost the palace $850,000 a year in 2015. Palermo, I thought it was Palmero, warned Albert, according to the notebooks. She was then given another $350,000 and decamped to London, where Albert bought an apartment for her. Probably not cheaply either. However, he put the property in Alexandre's name, that's hard to say, because Nicole reportedly foresaw big problems with Charlene if Albert died. And yep, that could be a thing. In addition, I imagine that the moment Albert died, unless they have some kind of, legal document signed to the contrary, that they could lickety-split cut off those allowances to the extraneous sort of family members. Not Jasmine and Alexandre. I'm sure they're taken care of for life. I would be shocked if Albert would not have something in his will to make sure that they're taken care of. And I would be shocked if he wouldn't already have trusts established for them. But maybe this was his way of handling things. Maybe their financial futures are not quite as secure as one might think. I guess we will eventually find out. Continuing, in addition to dishing dirt on the Grimaldi family, they are serene highnesses, not royal. Hey, Caroline is royal. She married royal. It counts. Palmero is also suing his former employer for $1 million and has angrily refuted claims from the palace that he stole money. And here is Charlene with Jacques and Gabriella, and that is Princess Caroline on the left, and Princess Stephanie in the back here on the right, her two sisters-in-law. Okay. I never took a cent, Palmero told Le Monde. This is a 100% denial. I am neither corrupt nor a thief. All improbable things of which the princely family, for whom I devoted myself for 2 decades, unjustly accuses me today. Prince Albert responded in a statement that the attacks that Palmero makes against me and against the state of Monaco and its institutions show his true nature and the little respect he has for the family and the principality. Erringer told the Post that, as bad as all the revelations appeared to be, Albert's reign is assured pretty much no matter what. There's no authority who can oust him, and I don't think Albert is capable of stepping down, he said. If he did, his son would be the ruler, and of course that would be Prince Jacques, but there would be a regent appointed, someone like Princess Caroline, and of course that's because Jacques is a minor. But I don't see that happening, and it's not as if the citizens of Monaco are going to stage a revolt. So that is the end of that article, which scrolling back up to the top, was published in January of 2024. So over 1 year ago from today. And then we move forward, and here is the Wall Street Journal magazine article from the end of last month, May 2025. It is The Prince, His Money Manager, and the Corruption Scandal Rocking Monaco. He safeguarded the family's fortunes and their secrets. Now it's all unraveling. And of course, the Wall Street Journal is a financial newspaper with a bit more journalistic standing than the New York Post, which of course is widely regarded as a rag, a tabloid, which it is. It is a tabloid, full of gossip, but not always wrong. And so here we have, and I'm going to expand the window here. We're going to say goodbye to Charlene, and maybe we can keep Albert in frame, but this is very wide. It is a wide article. So let's open this up a little bit so we can see everything. We'll move Albert over a little bit, and we'll still be able to see him and what I imagine would be his reaction to these revelations. So here we go. This is the Wall Street Journal article from May 24, 2025. Tucked one street behind Monte Carlo's historic harbor, which is famously dotted with champagne bars and anchored by the storied casino that was the backdrop to multiple James Bond films, the Monaco police station may be the most unglamorous building in one of the world's most glamorous settings. Gray, and boxy, it looks more like student housing on a university campus than a bulwark of security for the global elite who flock here as much for its aura of protective secrecy as its shimmering scenery. But over 2 days this February, in the police captain's office, with a window facing up the rocky slope toward the palace, a dapper 68-year-old suspect in a corruption scandal rattled one of Europe's most storied royal families and shook the foundations of a tiny country built on polished appearances, ironclad confidentiality, and tightly choreographed power. The suspect, Claude Palmero, has salt and pepper hair and wears wire-rimmed glasses. If he looks like an accountant, it's because he is, and he now finds himself at the center of the alleged corruption scandal. And here we have a lovely photograph of the Monte Carlo Beach Club in 1970, photographed by Slim Aarons, and it looks just like a Slim Aarons photograph, does it not, if you are familiar with his work. Continuing. For much of his adult life, Palmero was the financial gatekeeper for Prince Albert II, Monaco's ruler for the past 2 decades, and the son of Prince Rainier III and Princess Grace, the Oscar-winning actress formerly known as Grace Kelly. A devoted sportsman, environmentalist, and philanthropist, 67-year-old Albert has a fortune that has been conservatively estimated at more than 1 billion euros, and by all accounts, he historically paid little attention to how it was managed. Instead, he entrusted it to Palmero as his administrateur des biens. That role, which Palmero inherited from his father, empowered him to manage Albert's private fortune, including by orchestrating quiet cash transfers when requested by the prince or others in the royal family. Palmero oversaw not only Prince Albert's private fortune, but also assets held by the crown, from prime real estate to a vast array of collections, including cars, stamps, coins, and artworks, as well as financial holdings. But the relationship turned sour in 2023 after a leak of hacked documents implicated Palmero in a number of alleged corruption and influence peddling schemes. In a casual text message that belied the chaos that was to come, Albert, in May of 2023, wrote to his longtime money manager, "I am now more or less obliged to speak out, to blow the whistle a little bit, to signal the end of recess, and try to reassure many people here at home." He fired Palmero weeks later. Albert also initiated a broader shakeup at the top of the principality. Dozens of insiders left their posts, including some of Monaco's most influential power brokers. The move kicked off a wave of recriminations and more damaging leaks, including from notebooks Palmero meticulously kept about the prince's private activities. French newspapers ran some contents of the notebooks, highlighting Albert's financial support for his children born out of wedlock and their mothers, as well as the spending of his wife, Princess Charlene, a former Olympic swimmer, and other members of the royal family. Monaco is a principality, not a kingdom, though the public widely refers to its ruling dynasty as a royal family. Well, they could be royal, even being mere princes and princesses. It's simply the fact that their styles are serene highness, not royal highness. But again, Caroline is a royal highness. If only by marriage, it still counts. And here is an old photograph. I think it says, let's see, from 2005. That's Prince Albert in the center with his sisters, Princess Stephanie on the right, Princess Caroline on the left, and Caroline's children, Charlotte, Andrea, and Pierre Casiraghi. And then a 1958 photograph of Princess Grace with little baby Prince Albert, and then a 1949 photograph of Prince Rainier III. Continuing the article. In September 2023, Albert ratcheted up the feud further by filing a lawsuit, along with his sisters, against Palmero, accusing him of breach of trust and theft. The charges were later expanded to include forgery, use of forged documents, and money laundering. According to people close to the prince, it was the first time in over 700 years of the Grimaldis dynasty that a ruler filed a criminal complaint against a Monaco resident. The February interrogations at the police station, spanning 2 full days, were part of the continuing investigation that is discreetly winding its way through Monaco's courts. Palmero has been questioned about Panamanian holding companies, Swiss bank accounts, and secret payments made to keep the prince's private life exactly that, private. During questioning, he was not even allowed to use the bathroom without a guard escort. Palmero has denied the allegations. Prosecutors have interviewed him on multiple occasions, but have not brought any charges. Palmero's defense can be boiled down to this: all of his activity was designed with the best interests of the prince in mind, including cleaning up the messes made by Albert and other members of the royal family, who paid little attention to their finances and spending. In February, for example, Palmero was asked about a roughly $15.9 million transfer he made to a company called Étoile de Mer. Palmero referred the officer to a letter addressed to the prince's legal team, explaining that the funds had ultimately ended up with a company used to cover expenses tied to Nicole Coste, the former Air France flight attendant and one-time lover of Prince Albert, as well as their son, Alexandre. The prince wished for the utmost confidentiality so that this situation would not become known to his wife, the letter read, according to documents viewed by WSJ Magazine. Police investigators also questioned Palmero about a $795,000 transfer flagged by auditors as suspect. He described it as reimbursement for years of unlogged spending on behalf of the prince himself, kept private for reasons of confidentiality and his own sense of duty and discretion. Among the outlays Palmero claimed to have quietly absorbed: rent for the prince's Monaco bachelor pad, which he kept after he was no longer a bachelor, or maybe more to the point, obtained upon losing his bachelor status. The salaries and housing arrangements for Coste's staff, and assorted costs tied to Princess Charlene's private Monaco apartment, which he said were deliberately kept off the books to avoid leaving evidence that she sometimes stayed outside the palace. Now, would that honestly be shocking to anyone outside of Monaco who pays any attention to what goes on with the Grimaldis? It certainly wouldn't raise any eyebrows in Monaco itself. Everyone in Monaco knows the situation, and pretty much everyone outside of Monaco who knows about them knows about the situation in their marriage. So that's a bit strange. I mean, honestly, I don't even know why Charlene would be upset about Albert spending money on Nicole and Alexandre or any of them. I mean, it's his money. Yes, they're married, but I mean, come on now. Anyway, continuing the article, the commingling of funds was further complicated by Palmero's practice of investing alongside the royal family, which he said he could do because he has a personal fortune of more than $113.5 million, much of which came from an inheritance. Yes, but was his inheritance from his father, who presumably got rich by handling the money of the Grimaldis, who, of course, don't pay very close attention to their finances. Anyway, in one instance, police pressed Palmero on why some $185 million, mostly in private equity funds, was held in a company called Janus, which was owned by Palmero. Janus is a two-headed god, Palmero told police, implying that this was no coincidence. There were two people involved. At times, Palmero got exasperated by the questioning, saying of his former boss, "He now pretends that for 22 years he knew nothing about the state or management conditions of his own assets. He is the sovereign of a state, so either he is lying to serve his own interests, or he should step down, because someone like that should not be allowed to manage anything. It's utterly ridiculous." Well, and here is the man himself. It says, for much of his adult life, Claude Palmero was the financial gatekeeper for Prince Albert II. The relationship turned sour in 2023 after a leak implicated Palmero in a number of alleged schemes. So there you go. There's Claude Palmero. Do you think this is the face of an honest man, a now honest man? Is this the face of an honest man? Who do you trust or believe? Either, neither? Okay, continuing. Some of the prince's allies agree with at least part of that assessment, suggesting the prince placed too much trust in familiar faces. Surrounded by old friends and advisors who echoed each other's views, he saw little cause for doubt. The scandal, they say, jolted him into seeing things differently. Prince Albert took the throne 20 years ago this July, promising to usher in a new era in which Monaco would stand for something more than immense wealth for its own sake. But the scandal is merely reinforcing to many outsiders the famous Monaco descriptor from Somerset Maugham, a sunny place for shady people. And I swear there are very few articles or books or anything written about Monaco that does not include that wonderful quote. What a beautiful phrase. So accurate. It could be applied to many other places. Las Vegas, for example. Although, where did I read? I don't think it's an article we're reading now, but it said something about Monaco being like Las Vegas on steroids or something like that. I guess it's Las Vegas that looks a little classier, but isn't actually a little classier. Okay. Continuing, in a statement to WSJ Magazine, Jean-Michel Darrois, Prince Albert's lawyer, said the prince would not comment on the specifics of the scandal and the dispute with Palmero. Of course, this episode has been difficult, Darrois said. He has taken all necessary decisions and measures to address the issues, strengthen governance, and ensure full transparency. The matter is now in the hands of the judiciary, in which he has complete confidence. His focus is now fully on Monaco's future. And moving on, Palmero's lawyers dismissed the allegations, saying that his management of the family's assets had only ever been profitable. The false indignation of the princely family, especially Prince Albert's, inventing that their estate administrator of 22 years might have tried to appropriate their assets, is utterly staggering, they said. The lawyers described the barrage of lawsuits as a palace vendetta aimed at silencing Palmero's fight against corruption. With no income tax for individuals and an obsession with privacy, Monaco is a magnet for billionaires, celebrities, and high-net-worth expats looking to shelter fortunes in plain sight. Property prices regularly hit over $110,000 per square meter, making it some of the most expensive real estate on Earth. The harbor in the sun-dappled Mediterranean hosts a parade of super yachts, floating mansions stacked with helipads and champagne decks, all moored just steps from the palace. And once a year, the entire city transforms into a high-octane playground, for the Monaco Grand Prix, when Formula One cars scream through the narrow streets, watched from private terraces and luxury suites perched above the track. And I actually got to see some of the Monaco Grand Prix what was it? It was just about a week ago. And yes, we have a little article about the Monaco Grand Prix. And I did get to see Albert, and I think Andrea Casiraghi was there. And that was quite fun. Continuing. The principality's global status is largely the creation of Albert's father, Prince Rainier III, who ruled for over 50 years. In 1956, he married Grace Kelly, the Hollywood starlet. Well, she was an Oscar winner. She wasn't just a starlet. She was a little older than... She was no ingenue, let's put it that way. Whose image helped cement Monaco's mystique on the world stage until her death in a car accident in 1982. Yes, it was a very well-brokered business deal of an arrangement. Great PR for Monaco. As their only son, Albert grew up under intense public scrutiny, groomed for leadership, but made to wait. Well, As mostly they all are. It's kind of part of the job. I always find it weird when they talk about heirs being groomed for things and then they have to wait. That's part of the deal. That's part of how it works. It gives you a lot of time to learn and to grow and maybe do a good job. He had all of this time to learn, and what did Albert do with that time? Well, he made extramarital children is what he did, and maybe some other things that weren't quite so positive. But continuing, despite years of speculation, Regnier held on to power far longer than expected. Insiders were convinced he'd step down in 1997 as part of the 700th anniversary of the Grimaldi dynasty. Then again in 1998 when he turned 75. Some were certain he'd pass the baton on the 50th anniversary of his reign in 1999. Each time, it didn't happen. Albert finally ascended the throne in 2005 at age 47, only after Regnier's death. And here we have a photograph of the Monaco Grand Prix. This is 1958. The cars look so much different now, do they not? Imagine they were driving around with their heads completely exposed. That's supremely dangerous, but there you go. Very risky business, race car driving. Okay, continuing, Albert himself has always cut a different figure from the classic monarch. Not really that much, honestly. He's a committed sportsman, an avid tennis player, and a black belt in judo. He has competed in 5 Winter Olympics as part of Monaco's bobsled team. He's also known for a colorful personal life marked by a long history of romantic entanglements. Now, while it's rather odd that he was part of a bobsled team of a tiny principality on the Mediterranean that surely doesn't have much in the way of snow and bobsledding as a usual sporting event. It is not unusual for royals to be Olympic. Well, I mean, Princess Charlene is an Olympian, former Olympian, but King Constantine of Greece was a sailor, and Princess Anne of the UK, an equestrian, and I could go on, but let's get back to the article. A graduate of Amherst College in Massachusetts, he was asked in 2021 by the student newspaper to name his favorite course. Wow, maybe human sexuality? No, he laughs. I don't know, he said. And any wonder that his father did not want to abdicate and hand over the reins of power to this man? Dude, you're being interviewed by the student newspaper of your college. Maybe try to have a better answer. What a nut. Okay. He went on to say political science and the arts were subjects that captured his interest, right? In the same interview, he noted that he held a job at Amherst, working briefly as an art library attendant. It was great to know what it feels like to earn a paycheck, he said. Not that I don't get paid in Monaco, but I don't really see my paycheck. That casual attitude toward money in many ways paved the way to today's scandal. In 2023, on another visit back to campus, Albert decided that he wanted to donate millions to fund a new residential building at Amherst, maybe name it after himself or Monaco. Palmero informed him that his investments weren't liquid enough to allow him to make the donation immediately, as the prince wanted, and that it would take weeks to assemble that much cash. Palmero said some in the prince's inner circle used the episode to try to convince him that his money manager was stealing from him. Either he believed that, or he pretended to believe it, Palmero told WSJ Magazine. Fueling Albert's suspicions was the lingering fallout from the Dossier du Rocher leak 2 years earlier. Hackers had breached the inbox of Thierry Lacoste, one of Albert's lawyers and an old family friend, unearthing documents that were later presented as evidence of alleged corruption inside the palace and implicating top advisors, including Palmero. The prince had initially brushed it off, backing his inner circle. But when the French investigative program Complément d'enquête aired a damning expose about the leak, his patience snapped. Shortly after, the prince confronted his longtime moneyman and asked him to step aside. Palmero refused, and Albert then terminated him. Palmero, for his part, dismissed the corruption allegations as a calculated smear campaign tied to rivalries in Monaco's high-stakes real estate sector. Palmero was given 1 hour to vacate the office he had occupied for 22 years. On that day in 2023, he left the office with 8 boxes and bags full of documents, according to police testimony from Salim Zegdar, Palmero's successor. Afterward, the Carabinieri sealed the office. The prince and his associates scrambled to piece together his fortune. The day after Palmero's departure, they brought in specialists to break into Palmero's safe, hoping to find key documents outlining his financial affairs. But the safe contained only a handful of old documents dating back to the 1980s. Nothing of substance, and certainly nothing that could help reconstitute the sprawling fortune of the crown, according to people close to the prince. That discovery sparked panic inside the palace walls. How would they claw back the fortune and bring it under the crown's name? And what if Palmero were to suddenly die? With so many critical documents seemingly still in his possession, the prince feared that massive pieces of the royal treasure could disappear forever, or end up trapped in legal limbo. Basically, I had no idea what assets I was supposed to manage, Zegdar told police. Above all, I couldn't understand the relationships between the companies. At first glance, it looked like a multi-layered structure designed to create total opacity. Palmero, for his part, denies all this. He claims the safe was opened illegally behind his back and says the official inventory is fiction. As for why he didn't assist in the transition, he says he had been placed on medical leave for depression, brought on by the pressure and what he describes as a campaign against him. Prince Albert ordered an internal investigation into where and how his assets had been invested, and brought in corporate auditors from Alvarez and Marsal to tear through the books. What they uncovered, according to people close to the prince, was downright alarming. And here is a photograph of Prince Rainier, Princess Grace, little Prince Albert, and Princess Caroline, and it says circa 1963. And doesn't Albert look like a little Cupid doll come to life? He looks like a little Cupid doll. Continuing. In several cases, Palmero appeared to have set up co-investment arrangements where he quietly took a stake alongside the prince and his family. According to people familiar with the internal investigation, Palmero would put in an amount of money, wait to see how the investment performed, and if it paid off, increase his stake a year later. If it didn't, he'd reduce or drop it altogether. Palmero denied changing the stakes after the fact and described the overall setup as a classic case of alignment of interests, a financial principle where the manager invests his own money alongside the client's. It's a necessity, he said. The manager and the principal win and lose at the same time. Yet Zegdar later told police that neither the agency nor the prince himself had any idea this was how things were being run. Even more startling, according to members of the prince's own inner circle, was the auditor's finding that Palmero had allegedly used palace funds to buy items far outside his mandate, including surveillance gear. Among the purchases, a secure server worth over $260,000 and 3 military-grade Black Hornet drones totaling $127,943. In his police testimony, Zegdar said the drones must have been used to spy on people connected to the Dossier du Rocher, referring to the hack of Thierry Lacoste's inbox, an allegation Palmero denied in his own interview with police. Palmero and a security consultant he worked closely with each told police that the prince was aware of all their activities. Now, I believe them both. I do believe that Palmero, well, I guess that's three people. I believe Palmero and the security consultant when they say that the prince knew what they were doing, at least in a general sense. I'm sure he must have known. But I also believe Zegdar when he says that the drones must have been used to spy on people. Maybe not just people connected to the dossier, but it's certainly believable. Okay, well, here we have another photograph. This, let me see, is from 1976. And we have Princess Grace, Prince Rainier, little Stephanie, Prince Albert, Princess Caroline, and that lovely portrait of Princess Grace in the background. If you've seen it, it's rather a lovely one. And let's not forget the little doggy down here. Looks like Yorkshire Terrier, maybe? Something like that. Okay, continuing. As investigators kept turning up what they saw as shady payments and financial loose ends, Prince Albert began weighing a dramatic step, filing criminal charges. His lawyers and PR team huddled over the pros and cons. This wasn't just a legal battle. Launching a complaint against Palmero could blow the lid off some of the palace's most closely guarded secrets. Palmero knew a lot, including how much Albert had quietly paid to support children from past affairs, and details of the hush-hush apartment kept in Monaco. The way they keep referring to children from past affairs, but not specifically just Jasmine and Alexandre, makes me think there are more. There have to be more. Very, very sloppy. His communications advisor walked the prince through the worst-case scenario, tabloid frenzy, and damage to his reputation. Well, one wonders how much more it could be damaged, especially if we add into it the thing I haven't mentioned yet, the worst rumor about Albert, the worst one, where involves lack of consent. Still, Albert pressed ahead. On September 18, 2023, the prince and his sisters filed a complaint against Palmero that put the number of companies owned by members of the princely family in which Palmero held shares, directly or indirectly, at 47. Several months later, the warnings that the palace dirt could be leaked were realized. After Palmero's dismissal from the palace, police had searched his residences and seized the notebooks, which contained detailed accounts of the royal household's financial inner workings. They were returned to him in August, when Palmero picked them up in person from the station. And in January of 2024, Le Monde published a series of stories about their contents. And I think we, here on French Dip Empire, should go over those articles. Not right now, but future video or videos, depending on how long that series is. I imagine that could be a bit of a video series unto itself, but we shall see. Stay tuned and come back for more of that in the near future. Continuing. At the center of some of the most eye-popping disclosures is Prince Albert's wife, Princess Charlene. Palmero's records describe unchecked spending, under-the-table staffing, and what Palmero called a complete lack of oversight. Her office was redecorated at a cost of $1.1 million. That actually doesn't sound terribly high to me, considering she's a princess, but I suppose that's high. Depends on what you're buying. Art? I don't know. Over 8 years, Palmero wrote that she spent $17 million, despite receiving just $8.5 million in official allowances. I have no control over the princess's expenses, Palmero wrote in December 2018. She also employed off-the-books staff, including Filipino workers, one of whom had overstayed a tourist visa by 5 years. He noted in 2021 that Charlene had 8.5 personal staff. I'm not, that sounds odd. 8.5. What was the 0.5? That must be a typo. More than any other royal. Her brother, Sean Whitstock, received just over $1 million in payments toward a house. I thought it said $800,000 in the previous article. Maybe they gave him more. Despite having no official role at the palace. So it's a little unclear. Is this crown money? Is this Albert's personal money? I guess that's part of the problem. It seems as though personal money and crown money was commingled. But again, I'm a little unclear. Does anyone have to care if if the crown is essentially his? Is somebody not being paid? Is there some kind of deficit? Or are the Grimaldis themselves going to run out of money? Are they going to run out of money for palace upkeep and that sort of thing? Paying the staff? Well, clearly they don't have a problem paying the staff because they don't pay the staff, at least not very much. Well, anyway. And here is a picture from, well, I would say a happier day, but considering the rumors of the runaway bride and Charlene in tears right before this ceremony, I guess I can't say the happy day, but it certainly looks like it should have been a happy day, from 2011 when Albert in his, what looks like an overly large suit to me, and his still Cupid doll appearance a bit, got married to Charlene, who, fantastic dress. Boy, she certainly looked the part. And the little, I'm not sure if this is cute or weird, little odd, little milkmaids or whatever the bridesmaids, the little bridesmaid girlies are dressed as, the flower girls. But anyway, cute, nice pictures. Not such a nice picture now. Continuing. Albert's private affairs were also quietly but carefully financed, according to the contents of the notebooks reviewed by WSJ Magazine. His daughter, Jasmine Grace Grimaldi, was given an apartment in New York and received a quarterly allowance of $88,600. His son, Alexandre, born to the former flight attendant Nicole Coste, received support through a shell company structure designed to keep the arrangement discreet. Again, everyone has known of the existence of these children for years upon years. Why would they need to do this? Why couldn't he simply set up a trust fund? It actually makes no sense to me. It really, really doesn't. Of course, it doesn't say exactly when the shell company structure was set up, but still, it boggles my mind. Anyway, continuing. At one point, an alarmed Palmero warned the prince that his spending on Coste's fashion venture, there you go, I told you the Grimaldis just love fashion, even the ones that aren't quite married in. His spending on Coste's fashion venture was trending towards $1.1 million a year, according to the notebooks. The revelations were embarrassing and invasive, but little by little, the prince began piecing his fortune back together, including the fact that much of it was held at Railbank in Geneva. And I can't easily show this, but when I looked up Railbank in Geneva, or is it Railbank? I can't remember. Rail. There was a little YouTube short that an investigative journalist had made about their investigations into this bank. And the comment that he was making was that the bank handles the money of like dictators and strongmen around the world. Let's see, like either the leaders or the family members of the heads of, like, I think it was Kazakhstan, maybe Uzbekistan, places like that, known for, well, every place has corruption and whatnot. But anyway, places that you probably wouldn't want to be doing business with these individuals. They're not the nicest individuals in the world, and a lot of shadiness, like extreme shadiness, not just the usual shadiness that one one finds in these sorts of cases. So that's the kind of bank that, Prince Albert is having his money handled by. A very shady bank, and of course, Switzerland having extreme security and secrecy laws related to financial companies and people's private finances, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So in other words, a good choice if you want to keep this bit of business secret. Continuing the article. On June 28, 2023, Prince Albert and a team of advisors and lawyers traveled to the bank's offices. In the early afternoon, a lawyer representing Palmero handed over the keys to the safe at the bank. What they found proved crucial for Prince Albert's team. The papers helped identify a number of Panamanian holding companies dating back to the 1980s that belonged to the prince and his two sisters. It would take months, according to people close to the palace, to work out what all the companies owned. Still, after the visit to Switzerland, a large part of the royal family's fortune was now accounted for and confirmed to be in Albert's hands. After numerous terse exchanges between lawyers on both sides, the palace was in control of nearly all of its wealth. It also agreed to transfer to Palmero a portion of the investment vehicle shares to which he said he was entitled, amounting to $3.2 million. And he also received a settlement related to the personal expenses he said he covered on behalf of the prince. But the financial disentanglement is not complete. Negotiations between the two sides are continuing, even as Prince Albert has worked to reassert control over his financial affairs at home. He has carried on with the quiet choreography of state. Earlier in the spring, Prince Albert toured France to spotlight the Grimaldis family's historic ties to various northern regions. Albert and Princess Charlene also joined mourners at the Vatican for Pope Francis's funeral in St. Peter's Square. The Grimaldis, of course, are Roman Catholic, rather nominally Roman Catholic, but nonetheless, he would be a Catholic sovereign attending the Catholic Pope's funeral, an important occasion. On July 19, all Monegasque citizens are invited to join Prince Albert and Princess Charlene for a cocktail party on the palace square to mark his 20 years on the throne. For his part, Palmero insists he will fight for as long as it takes to restore his honor and has now taken his case to the European Court of Human Rights, arguing that he is a victim and cannot receive a fair trial in Monaco. Yeah, I can't imagine that he would. He points out that Prince Albert is also officially the head of the judiciary. Well, yeah, I would think that would be a bit of a bias, a bit of an unfair aspect to the proceedings, especially if, here, I'm scrolling back up as quickly as I can. Are we talking about the judiciary of, where's the lady with the red hair? Oh, I think she was over on this article. Is this the judiciary? Is this the judge? Where's the red-haired lady? Where'd she go? There. Is this the judiciary lady? Is the red-haired lady going to rule in favor of the prince or the whistleblower? Well, what do you think? And what do you think? What will happen when it goes to the European Court of Human Rights? Will Albert's dirty laundry be dragged even more into daylight? What do you think the party will be like this July, celebrating Albert's years on the throne? Will it be a happy celebration? Do you think Jasmine Grace and Alexandre will be there? Will Nicole Coste be there? Will they invite Tamara Rotolo? Who knows? Will the Mellencamp show up? They should all be there, don't you think? That would make for a wonderful celebration. And speaking of celebrating, if you would like to celebrate this show that you've been listening to, I would certainly appreciate it. We would all at the French Dip Empire certainly appreciate it if you would give a little like, a share, a subscribe, give a comment. Let us know, what do you think about Prince Albert? How many other children do you suppose the man has? Will they come to public light, or will they be relegated to the shadows with perhaps a multi-million-dollar payoff? What do you think is coming next? And hey, what's your vote for the upcoming Casiraghi baby? Boy, girl, twins? You have any idea for a name? They've already honored the fathers of both Beatrice Borromeo and Pierre Casiraghi. Will they honor the moms? I guess we shall see. And to wrap up this episode of Friendship Empire, we will just take a quick little look. This is from 26 May 2025. I told you I saw a bit of the Monaco Grand Prix in this article. Princess Charlene risks awkward run-in with Prince Albert's ex-mistress, Nicole Coste, and his love children as they all attend Monaco F1 Grand Prix. And we're not going to be reading this because I think we've pretty much covered everything and you can probably figure that out. But here we go. Here they are. They look thrilled, don't they? Charlene and Albert. It was a lovely day, though. And they have a picture down here. Here is Alexandre and Nicole, his mother. Again, very fashionable, very, very stylish, fashionably dressed. And they don't have a picture of Jasmine, but they do have a picture from her social media. It looks like it's her Instagram of what a view. Look at that. Look at that. The ocean, or the sea, the property, the most expensive property practically on Earth. And there you go. Stands and yachts and a swimming pool. How lovely. And there you go. And then there's Albert again and Charlene. And so we will let Albert wave goodbye as we wrap up this episode of Friendship Empire. I'm the Empress, and I thank you, if you've made it this far, for joining us for this little tale. Good news and bad news for the royal family of Monaco. I'm going to move this over here. There we go. So we have Albert and Charlene ×2. And we will be covering more on the royal family of Monaco, other European royal families. We've got a Norwegian royal family update on Marius, and much, much more to come. So thank you for listening. And again, hit that like button, go ahead and subscribe, leave a comment, and we hope to see you back next time with the next episode of Friendship Empire. I'm the Empress. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.